This is to lawyers that are out there doing social media. You've looked at a lot of social media. I know you have a lot of good opinions on that. So what do you see are some of the top mistakes and maybe some advice you would give them, some, 80-20 things that they could fix pretty quickly to maybe get better traction on social media?
So my biggest pet peeve, this is specific to LinkedIn. I hate when I see posts and it's like, I'm thrilled to announce I just got this certification. I'm thrilled to announce whatever. Nobody is ever actually thrilled to announce these things. Like when you're creating content on social media, speak like a human being, please and thank you. Stop with the I'm thrilled to announce things. Another thing that I see right now happening that's also kind of making me mad is what I like to call empathy porn, which is people posting things like, I got fired from my first job out of law school. Here's how it turned into $1 million law firm.
Welcome to the Founding Partner Podcast. Join your host, Jonathan Hawkins, as we explore the fascinating stories of successful law firm founders. We'll uncover their beginnings, triumph over challenges, and practice growth. Whether you aspire to launch your own firm, have an entrepreneurial spirit, or are just curious about the legal business, you're in the right place. Let's dive in.
Welcome to Founding Partner Podcast. I'm your host, Jonathan Hawkins. Today, we're going to welcome Bianca Jordan to the show. She is an immigration attorney. She's got a pretty interesting background, and she's got sort of I don't know if it's a side hustle or it's a different sort of side business that we're going to get into as well. But Bianca, welcome. Why don't you introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about you and your firm, where you are, what you do.
Sure. Thanks so much for having me. So I'm Bianca. I'm mostly an immigration attorney. I like to say that I turn your red flags into green cards because the majority of my cases are super complicated marriage-based green card cases that are full of issues that the government thinks are red flags. Things like, large age differences between the two spouses, or maybe they don't live together. Maybe they don't have any financial assets together. So I help them to navigate that process successfully so that they can get their green card. I also handle some cases for people who are in removal proceedings. So I help them avoid being deported from the United States. When I'm not doing that, I am helping licensed professional service providers with their personal branding to grow their businesses without all the gimmicks and tricks that the internet bros tell you that you have to do to grow your business.
Yes, well, you're going to have to teach our listeners a little bit today. So hopefully you give us some tips. But let's start. So why immigration? Has that been what you've always done, or is that something you got into later?
Yeah, so I started my practice doing small business law and immigration. Over time, dropped the small business law because it's not as exciting as immigration, to be honest. I've always wanted to be an international human rights attorney. Like I kind of wanted to be like Amal Clooney, but I didn't want to do work outside of the US. I did some human rights work outside of the US in law school. Didn't really love it that much. Wanted to do something similar, but in the US. And for me, immigration was that.
Nice. Okay. So the other thing that I found in researching you is it looks like straight out of law school, you started your law firm. Is that correct?
Yep. Like within a month of getting sworn into the bar.
So yeah, tell me about that. It's a big move. Is that something you always knew you were going to do out of law school, or is that something that you're like, well, I guess I just have to do this?
A little bit of both. I always knew that I wanted my own practice, but I figured I needed to work for someone first because law school doesn't really teach you how to, practice law, never mind running a legal business. And because I was focusing on immigration, most of my internships were at legal aid organizations where my clients didn't actually pay us for services. So I figured maybe I should work for someone so I at least know what I should be charging for my services. I had a job offer and then they pulled it. And I was just scrambling to find work, ran out of money, ran out of my savings, my retirement. And after 500 or so job applications, I decided, well, you know what? If no one wants to hire me, then I'll hire myself. And so I just, within a month, opened up my own practice. I had just enough money left to get my law license, like print some business cards with a design that I created on Microsoft Word. I wasn't even using Canva at the time. And with my MySpace HTML skills, I built my own website and I kind of just started with what I had.
Well, and sounds like you've built a lot. So that was about 11 years ago, right?
Yep.
Okay. So you mentioned it, they don't really teach you these things in law school. So how did you figure it all out?
I kind of just winged it. I figured at a minimum, Massachusetts felt like I was, they were confident enough in my abilities to practice law. So that was half the battle. I figured, what do I need to practice law? I need my law license and some Wi-Fi. So as long as I had that, everything else I would just figure out. I started with the cases that I kind of knew how to handle based on my internships, and I was in an immigration clinic in law school for a year. So I focused with what I knew. And then once I got more confident in that, I started to try to get other cases and kind of just built from there.
Did you have mentors or people that you could sort of lean on to say, hey, what do I do here? Or did you just truly just figure it out on your own?
I mostly figured it out on my own. I did occasionally go to my immigration clinic director. I would occasionally go to her with cases where I'm like, I don't know what to do. But she didn't know what to do either. She was like, I've never had this kind of case come up before. So however you think you could handle it is probably right. And so I just trusted that. And I did a lot of research. I would go to like the law libraries around me and just do a lot of research, Googling. I didn't really have any formal mentors because a lot of lawyers just didn't believe in what I was trying to do with this virtual law firm. A lot of people thought I was a scammer. And so they didn't really want to like be involved in that at all. So they were kind of like, best of luck to you. So I just kind of had to figure it out on my own.
Yeah. I mean, so, nowadays, post-COVID, virtual law firm, it's no big deal. Everybody's like, yeah, everybody can do that. But back when you started, that's not the way it was, right?
Right. It was very conservative, brick and mortar, so I was definitely breaking the norm.
And I remember back in the day, it was like borderline, potentially not ethical under some of the rules in some of the states.
Yeah.
I guess Massachusetts, do you have to bump into that at all, or
not
sure
really?
It was okay?
No. Yeah, no, I didn't really have that issue, or at least I didn't ask if it was going to be an issue. I kind of just, I figured I'm very big on, like do something. It's better to ask for forgiveness and permission kind of thing.
Now, the good thing about immigration, that's a national practice, right? You're not tied to your state.
Exactly.
And so virtual firm, you could be anywhere, right? Do you take advantage of that?
I do. I travel a lot for work. My clients are everywhere. And it's also my way of kind of tapping into the access to justice problem as well, because I speak different languages and there are people in other states who speak my language that maybe don't have an attorney close to them that speaks that language. So in a way, because I can be wherever my clients are, then that helps me to help more people.
So what languages do you speak other than English?
I speak Haitian Creole and a little bit of French.
And so do you have connection to Haiti?
Yeah, so my family's from Haiti.
Oh, Haiti, sorry. Okay, so are you were not born in Haiti, but your family was, or?
Correct, yeah.
So are you the daughter of immigrants?
Yes.
Or is it more removed than that?
Yep. Both of my parents were born in Haiti.
And so did that have any influence on pursuing the immigration?
Not really. You would think it would, but I didn't really factor my parents into my decision to be an immigration attorney. I really just wanted to help people. I wanted to do international human rights law or something related to that.
So are you like a sort of stereotypical child of immigrants where, you have to go to get a professional degree? Were your parents pushing you, or was that you?
So this was actually all me. I decided at 12 that I wanted to be a lawyer based on playing the role of a lawyer during a field trip. I figured I liked it. This was kind of cool. I think I'll do it when I grow up. And I actually did. I wonder sometimes, though, if I hadn't made that decision on my own, if my parents would have pushed me into it. But I don't really think so. My parents were pretty much like, we don't really care what you do as long as you're the best at it.
Yeah. So let's go back to the early days of your firm. Again, so you come out. Did you have any clients when you started?
I had 2, I believe. Yeah. I had I had 2 clients within a month of starting. And then I had another client like a month later. So 3 clients.
And how did you get those clients?
So the first 2 I got from just going around in my local town, just handing out flyers and business cards, just saying, hey, I'm an attorney. I can help you. Here's how to reach me. I would go to various churches in the area and just pass out flyers. And somebody contacted me from that.
That's cool. A lot of people out there that are going to start their firms, if they do not have clients, the big fear is, where am I going to get them? Mm-hmm. And there's lots of different ways to get them. Some are easier than others. Some are more expensive than others. But, that's grassroots, boots on the ground kind of stuff. So you went around doing that, got your first 3 clients. I assume that sort of changed over time of how you get clients. Mm-hmm. So take me through the progression. How do you sort of get clients now, and then how did you get to that point?
Yeah, so over time, the reason why I stopped going from like church to church and place to place, honestly, is because winter came and it was cold and I didn't want to like walk around in the cold anymore. And so I just switched to mostly marketing on social media, Instagram in particular, because I already had an Instagram account. So I just started posting like legal tidbits and things and just telling people, hey, I'm an attorney. Here's how I can help you. Here's what I help you with. And so over time, people just started noticing me on Instagram. And then I moved over to YouTube, got a LinkedIn, and then during COVID, I got TikTok, and that really blew up my business.
Really? So now is TikTok a big source?
Mostly TikTok and YouTube.
Wow. Yeah. So I'm not on TikTok at all. So it's just, I see, I'm on Twitter. So if it's really, really big on TikTok, it sort of makes it over to Twitter. So that's how I know it's really big. But so I don't really know much about it. But How did you figure all that out? I mean, you just start experimenting?
Pretty much. I'm very big on so I don't really like marketing like other people do, especially lawyers, because I find that a lot of legal marketing is boring. And so I just talk to people like a regular person. I don't use a lot of legalese in my content or anything. I'm just relaying things how I would want to share it. I share a lot of memes and pop culture and like hip hop lyrics and stuff in my content, which really relates to people on just an individual level. And I'm able to just share information that they want to know. And that kind of attracts them to me because I'm not like a typical stuffy lawyer. Like you're very rarely, if ever, going to see me in like a suit and, all dressed up and whatnot. I find a lot of people find that intimidating, especially from an immigration perspective. And so I'm kind of just like, I'm just regular Bianca. I just happen to be an attorney who can help you with your immigration case. And I find that a lot of people can relate to that.
And so let's talk about each one of those platforms has its own personality. So, what works on TikTok is not going to work on LinkedIn, and, what works for YouTube. Let's talk about YouTube real quick. So that's something that's of interest to me. I'm just curious, what's your approach to that? I mean, you could do the shorts, you can do the long form, you can do lots of different things. Mm-hmm. What do you do on YouTube?
So I don't do short form on YouTube because I really find that that's really TikTok's special sauce. So I do long form content on YouTube. People are mostly going to YouTube when they want to learn something. It's very big on like how-to content. And so that's what I'm sharing. I'm usually sharing news updates. I'm sharing tips on things. I'm sharing success stories so that people know that maybe you might have an opportunity to do something, or maybe just because your case was denied before doesn't mean that it won't be approved this time around. Maybe you missed something. So I'm sharing a lot of information like that. I also share long form content in other languages as well on YouTube to kind of diversify that a little bit. But my YouTube is mostly long form content, anywhere from like 3 to 5 minutes. I try not to keep it too long because people also do have like a short attention span, but I'm mostly just walking people through a particular topic that they want to know about.
Yeah, that was going to be my question. What do you mean by long form? I know some people, say should be 8 to 20 minutes long. That seems like a long time, but for you, 3 to 5 is sort of the sweet spot?
Yeah, and it really just depends on what you're talking about. Because if you can make it interesting, somebody might want to sit through like a 45-minute video watching something. I was actually on Sunday, my husband and I were watching a YouTube video that was literally 45 minutes long, and it was just a travel video, but it was interesting enough where we actually sat through the whole entire 45 minutes. So if what you're talking about is engaging enough and interesting to your audience, they will stick around. So it doesn't necessarily have to be like a 2-minute video. It just has to be informative.
So another question, for myself and maybe other attorneys out there, let's say you're at a firm that has, different practice areas. You mentioned a second ago that you have different languages you'll drop videos for. And so do you have different channels? Are they all on the same channel? How do you sort of break those apart for the consumers? For people out there that are thinking about maybe how do I set up my own YouTube channel?
Mm-hmm. So that's really a judgment call. There are some people that I've seen some attorneys where they have one channel all in English and then another one in Spanish. You could totally do that. Mine is just one. So like my TikTok account, I only have one that I mostly use, and I speak both languages on that channel. YouTube, same thing. And part of that is really just because I'm lazy. I don't want to have to manage like multiple YouTube channels just because they're different languages. But you could totally do that if you wanted to. I just chose not to.
So what about like the thumbnails and the headlines and the hooks? Do you do all that stuff yourself, or do you outsource any of that?
I do all of it myself. A couple of years ago, I did try to outsource my social media marketing to someone, didn't really work the best. For one, they didn't really capture my voice well. So a lot of people would kind of like slide in my DMs thinking that like my page was hacked because a lot of my content wasn't sounding like me. And then also a lot of the content that I was creating for myself was outperforming what the company I was paying to do was doing. So I'm like, well, I might as well just do this on my own then.
So somebody like me or maybe other people out there, I hear this and I'm like, man, that sounds really overwhelming. There's no way I personally could get in there and figure all this out and do it. How much time, I mean, you've probably got it down pat, but how much time does it take you and how long did it take you to get good at it?
So I'm not really sure how long it took me to get good at it because this is just something I've always done. Like I've always been on social media, even from like MySpace days. I've always created content. So for me, it's pretty easy, but I'm not someone who, so for one, I'm not overthinking everything, which a lot of lawyers do, unfortunately. They'll overthink something. If I get an idea for something for content, I'll just post it. I'm not too worried about it being perfect, but it also depends on the platform. My YouTube videos take a little bit more time. Some of them I do outsource to someone to edit for me, but most of the time it's just I'm recording a video and then I post it. Depending on how, like if it's something that's breaking news and I don't really have time to get it to an editor, I'll just record it, post it, and be fine. TikTok is more so like real authentic and real. You shouldn't be planning out a whole TikTok video. It really should just be you pick up your phone, talk to the people, and post it. It shouldn't be all perfect. So it really just depends on the platform.
So real quick, why don't you drop the handles out there for YouTube and TikTok if anybody wants to go check out your stuff?
Sure. So for YouTube, I'm Brazen Legal, which is my law firm name. And then for all other social media, I'm Brazen Lawyer everywhere. So like on Threads, on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, LinkedIn, like I'm literally Brazen Lawyer everywhere.
Okay, so here's another question that I've sort of heard some rumblings about lately about, YouTube and maybe some others, the branding of the channel, like your company versus you individually. And there's probably different schools of thought out there. Have you given that any thought? Do you have an opinion on that, or does it matter?
I think it matters, especially for platforms like LinkedIn. Sometimes people will get like their company profile on LinkedIn and then they'll have their personal one. But people aren't really going to your law firm page on LinkedIn. They're really going to your page. And you know this, or at least people should know this, because if they're posting something on their business page, they usually repost it on their personal page. You wouldn't have to do that if you thought people were going to your business page. And so that's kind of a problem. And then the other thing too that people need to understand is that people buy from people, not companies. We don't really care about, the company. We don't trust the company. It's pretty cold. We really want to buy from you. We want to do business with you if we know, like, and trust you. We're not going to get to know, like, and trust your company. We're going to get to know, like, and trust you as a person.
Okay, so Brazen Legal, where did you get the name? Where's that from?
Yeah, so Brazen Legal, honestly, just I was sitting at a desk one day wanting to change my law firm name. When I started it, it was the law office of Bianca Gay, which was my maiden name. And I knew I was getting married and didn't want to have it be the law office of Bianca Jordan. Figured I need a new name that kind of, matches my style and matches what I think is the way that I approach law, especially when it comes to immigration law. I'm very bold. I'll push boundaries, never do anything illegal, but I'm very big on unless the law says I can't do it, then I can try. And so I feel like that's really bold. That's really brazen. And it kind of just came to me and I just went with that.
That's cool. I say it over and over on the show, and anybody that listens to me, I like a good trade name for a law firm, so I like it. All right, so let's go back to your firm. So you get your virtual firm, you've got you, and you got your social media stuff that you do a lot of. What about help? Do you have any assistants, virtual assistants, or other attorneys or paralegals, whatever?
Yeah, so I have a contract attorney, I have a legal assistant, I just hired an OBM recently, and then I have my virtual receptionist. I had a bigger team before, but felt like I needed to downsize because I didn't need all the help that I had. And so now I'm kind of in this rebuilding phase.
So, a big issue for a lot of lawyers when they start out is that first hire. They overthink it, like you said, or they're too scared about it, nervous. They're like, I'm going to spend all this money. Did you have that issue that you had to deal with, battle with? And then how long did it take you before you made your first hire?
So I definitely waited too long to hire. And part of it was just my fear of will I be able to afford this person? What if I get to a point where I can't afford to keep paying this person? And my therapist was like, then you let them go. Like, it's not rocket science. Like, it's not personal, it's business. But when I had a bigger team, I never had any issues with paying them. So it was just like all in my head. And also, like, when you hire people to help you, it frees you up to make money in other ways. So the likelihood that you're not going to be able to afford your first hire is slim to none. It's really in your head. But God forbid you do get to that point. It's one of those things where you just have to let them go, but it's not a personal thing.
Yeah, I'm with you. A lot of people, they say, all right, well, I'm just going to throw even numbers out there, but it's $100,000 a year to have this person.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you're not paying them a lump sum at the beginning. You're paying them over the year. So, you're never going to, if it's not working out, like, so you can let them go.
Right.
But okay, so how long, that is the other thing is once you free yourself up, it's the whole buy back your time type thing. You really start to see some multiplier effects. So your first hire, was it what was it? Assistant, paralegal?
Yep. So my first hire was a legal assistant. She worked for me full time. And within the first month, she was booking enough consultations for me and it was covering her salary and then some. So part of me was like, I should have hired her a long time ago because she was bringing in money, covering her own salary. And, and those people were converting into clients. So she was really helping me make more money. So sometimes the people that we're afraid to hire are the ones that are actually going to make us more money.
Wow. And so how long until you sort of hired your first attorney?
So my first attorney, I didn't hire until I want to say like maybe a couple years after I hired the legal assistant. And part of that was I just wasn't sure if I wanted to hire like a full-time or even a part-time employee attorney. And then also all the other attorneys that I was speaking to, they either had their own law firms and didn't want to work for someone else either. So it ended up being like a win-win because they had the flexibility to help me how they want to. And I didn't have to deal with like all the extra payroll and, expenses from benefits and things like that.
Yeah, that is a good intermediate step, like a contract attorney or like an of counsel, something like that. I know a lot of people, I did that years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's sort of like pay as you go almost. So it's lower risk. So another thing, virtual, work from home, all that, all the rage now. Now it's, it's, I guess, becoming more controversial, whatever. So yeah, so now we got work from home and virtual and, there's the old school that says, oh, you can't train them and they need to be in the office. And then others are like, you're crazy, you can train them. But it is more challenging. I don't think you can dispute that it is more challenging to train people up when they're virtual. So how did you go about that aspect of hiring your virtual team?
So for one, I believe that we're all adults. I should be able to trust you to do your work. If I have to micromanage you, then you don't need to work for me because I'd just be doing the work myself anyway. But as far as training goes, I created like a workflow so that for my employees, they were going through like an onboarding so that they would kind of do it like day one is where they're setting up all their like financials and whatnot. Day two, they're learning, about my business. Day three, they're learning specifically about their job and what they're going to be doing. And then day four, we're doing like some hands-on stuff. And then day five, like they're kind of on their own to start trying. And so I kind of did it that way. Same for my contractors. I've had contractors who worked for me like in Massachusetts, in the Dominican Republic, like all over the place. So it's really just a matter of trusting people to do the work that you're hiring them to do. And then we also had meetings. So even though we weren't like meeting in person, we would still have like weekly meetings where we would go over things. And so for me, it worked out.
And so for the onboarding and the training, are there any software platforms that you use that you think are good for that?
So there are a lot of ones that you could use. Like now you could use Canva. Like Canva has a lot of things in there that you can use. You can do something like this through ClickUp, Trello. Like there's a lot of different ways that you can go about doing it.
Yeah. So the other thing you mentioned a minute ago, you said you had sort of built your team and then you're like, all right, I got to cut it back down. Tell me about that. What led you to build it too big and what led you to the decision to say, no, I'm ready to cut it back?
So I think I built it too big because I had a video go viral on TikTok and I immediately got like within a matter of hours, I had like 150 leads and the majority of them were actually good ones. Like they actually had cases that I could handle and wanted to hire me. And so I was like, I should probably hire people to help me with this now. And then I also was thinking if this continues, then I'm going to need more people. And so I had 2 paralegals. I had my legal assistant. I had another person who I called my client engagement manager. Like I just had all these people to kind of just do all types of different things. And it got to the point where all I was doing in my business was the marketing. And I actually got a little bit bored because like my clients didn't even want to talk to me anymore. They're like, we don't need you. Like we'll come to you if we need you. It was a beautiful thing. But then a couple of years ago, things started to kind of change where I was getting less clients. And then also a lot of the people that were doing work for me now, a lot of their work was just overlapping on top of each other. And so it's like, I don't really need all of these people because it's like now you two are doing the same thing. And then you two are like not really doing anything. So it was a combination. Some people weren't doing what they needed to do at all. And then other people were doing the same thing. And so I ended up just letting some of the people go. And then I had one person who ended up leaving to go work at a different law firm. And so right now I'm kind of assessing where I don't want to make that same mistake again. Well, I don't call it a mistake, but like a learning. I just don't want to hire more than I need, but I don't want to not have enough people either. So it's like a delicate balance.
You know, it is a balance, and it's one I think all law firm owners struggle with, especially early on. You know, the question is, you know, you where do you have limited resources and what do you focus on? So one, you got to get cases in the door. It sounds like you sort of figured that out. You went viral, got all this stuff, and you're like, okay, now I got to be able to handle the work. And so then the question is, do you hire and sort of increase your bench to get ready for it, or do you wait till you're overwhelmed? And then how do you sort of balance that stuff? It is a hard decision, and I mean, you can't really predict it. You just sort of have to go through it. It sounds like you went through that experience. I know I have, and I know many others have.
Yeah.
So the TikTok stuff, what does it mean to go viral on TikTok? Like, I know every platform viral means something different. What does that mean? And because that's a lot of leads out of one video. That's awesome.
And it was the most random video too. Like it was one of those videos. It was early on when I first started TikTok. So I think I joined TikTok like May of 2020, and I didn't even want to join TikTok, but that's a story for another day. And nobody was really watching my videos. I was getting like 20 views per video for a while. And then somebody asked me a question. They just wanted to know, like, could I help them? They're not in Massachusetts. Could I help them? And so up until that point, I was actually like kind of getting dolled up, like wearing makeup, like, you know, dressing like looking like a lawyer on TikTok, and my videos weren't doing well at all. That video or that comment, I decided to respond with a video. I had no makeup on. I think I might have had some chapstick on and a hoodie. And I just answered that question. And I got so many views. Like that video went totally viral. And I have a virtual receptionist, and I'm looking at all the people that are calling and all the people that are booking consultations and looking at the intake. And it's like all cases that I can actually take. And so I guess to answer your question, going viral means something different to different people. Some people might say like it's getting tens of thousands of views in a really short period of time. Some might say it's getting millions of views. I don't think any of my videos have ever hit 1 million. I have a client recently who went viral and his video hit 1 million, but it's really just a lot of people getting your video in a short period of time.
So now that you've been doing it a while, do you think is there any way to predict, or some of the elements that you think, all right, yeah, I think this one could go viral, so you can sort of design it on the front end?
Not for me, because it's always the most random videos that I do that will go viral. Like I remember like last summer, I was sitting on my couch. I think I had just come back from like a walk. I'm wearing like a Wu-Tang shirt with like a matching bandana on. And I'm just talking about a random case that I just won. And that video went viral, like hundreds of thousands of comments or views and like a lot of comments. And so for me, I can't really predict it. But if I had to predict it, I think people just want real. Like they're sick of all of the fake stuff, you know, especially all the AI generated things. They just want what's real, because so many people are creating fake stuff that they really just appreciate that human connection, storytelling, things that they can really relate to.
Real quick, thanks for listening. If you're getting any value out of this podcast, please take 2 seconds to hit the subscribe button and leave a 5-star review. It would really mean a lot to me. Now back to the show. So maybe this is a good time to shift into your sort of side business. And maybe side business is the wrong word. Maybe your law firm is your side business. I don't know. You can correct me. But you've got, maybe it's a consulting or an agency. I don't know how you describe it, but it's called Brilliant Rebel. So why don't you tell me how you would describe that business?
Sure. It's kind of a side business right now. I would love if my law firm would be the side business and this would be what I do full time because I enjoy that a little bit more, especially these days. But Brilliant Rebel, I think of more as a consultancy, and it's going on 4 years this month, actually. And I started it during COVID because a lot of lawyers specifically were in my DMs wanting my advice on how to go viral, how to even go virtual and start marketing on social during COVID, where everybody was, freaking out, rightfully so. I would go live every Friday on Facebook and I would always end by saying, hey, immigration is still open. File your applications. I'm here to help you from a social distance. And I would talk about the cases I was winning. And lawyers would be like, how are you even getting clients? I can't meet with anybody. My office is closed. And I don't meet with people in an office. So that was never a problem that I had. And interestingly enough, a lot of the lawyers that were like making fun of me in 2014 because I went viral were now in my DMs asking me, or virtual rather, were now in my DMs asking me to help them with that. And so at first, I'm just like sharing all the details in the DMs. And then my mom and one of my friends was like, so you're not making any money off of this? You're just like sharing all this, advice and tips and all this stuff for free to all these lawyers. Like, you should really do something about it. And so I kind of just to test it out, I did a webinar, basically, how to market on social. I think I called it 6-Figure Social, and just wanted to see if anybody was interested in it. And a lot of lawyers signed up. A lot of lawyers bought the replay. I ultimately turned it into a full-blown course that kind of shows you how to market on social. And then I kind of just created the business from there.
So that first webinar, did you charge for it?
I did.
Wow. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
It's funny that, not funny, but I mean, you were teed up ready for COVID. I mean, you were ready. Yeah. Nobody else. I mean, very few people were. You're ready. And I'm going to butcher this quote. I can't remember what it is, but it's something like, at first they laugh at you, then they do this and whatever. Yeah. It's sort of, you're there. Okay. So that's another interesting thing too, that you see a lot in business. And it's sort of like, you don't necessarily set out to create a business. Mm-hmm. It's a market is talking to you and reaching out to you saying, hey, help me. And you're like, wait, this could be a business. So you did that first webinar and then you turned into a course. Tell me sort of the evolution of Brilliant Rebel. How has it sort of evolved?
Sure. So originally it was called Rebel Immigration because at first only immigration attorneys were coming to me wanting help with going virtual and marketing on social. Over time, other people were coming to me as well. I had IP attorneys coming to me, criminal attorneys, accountants, therapists. It was more than just immigration attorneys. So I eventually changed the name to Brilliant Rebel. And for me, like words like Brazen, Rebel, like I like to be out there in case you didn't notice. And so I like to think of like rebelling against the status quo. The legal profession is very vanilla, boring, just no risk taking whatsoever. And I'm kind of like, no, let's push the envelope a little bit because yes, our profession is conservative and whatever, but the people that we're going to be serving might not be. And we need to be able to relate to them from like their perspective, not just focusing on like, being super serious and whatnot. And so over time, I just started offering more services to other people. Also noticed that a lot of people were coming to me after using other companies, like just signing up for them, not really getting the traction that they wanted. Because a lot of these other companies tell you to spend a ton of money a month on Google ads, which don't always work for everybody. And it doesn't matter if someone, clicks on your website from a Google ad. If there's not enough personality or anything there to really make them want to book a consultation with you, you're paying money for nothing. And so I've just been showing people that the secret sauce is themselves, like it's really just you being authentic because sure, there's like a million attorneys out there, but nobody is like you and your people want to hire you. They just need you to show up as your authentic self. And so I kind of empower people to put themselves more in their marketing because that's what's going to make people hire you. Copying what other people are doing is not really going to bring you clients because number one, you end up catfishing your clients because you're being something that you're not. And when they hire you, they're like, this is not what I signed up for. And also, if you think that you need to copy what I'm doing to get clients, then those aren't your clients. Those are mine,
I like it. Okay, so I'm a lawyer out there, and I come across Brilliant Rebel, and I think I want to work with you. So sort of take me through the process. What's that like? What's your process to take them through?
Sure. So at first I kind of want to see where they are in their journey. Are they a new law firm owner? Are they someone who's been doing it for a while? What are they doing for marketing, if at all? What's working, what's not? Because I don't want to suggest that they do things that aren't really working. So I kind of want to just see where they are. And then the main offer that I have is something called Niche Please, because a lot of lawyers struggle with niching down. Like there are so many lawyers that are like, I'm a trademark attorney, I'm a state attorney, I'm an immigration attorney. They're doing all of these things because they think that that's what's going to make them money, whereas it's really niching down that makes you money. Like I make more money now doing literally one case type than when I was also doing business law and all the other immigration things. So I work with people just to help them figure out what exactly is their special sauce. What is that thing that they can do better than anyone, that they can do, eyes wide shut, just in their sleep, like they can do it better than anyone, what they want to be known for, who they want to work with, just helping them really hone in on that and helping them to create branding around that and to help them with their marketing around that. So like for me, I'm really big on super complicated green card cases for married couples. I turn your red flags into green cards. Like that's my immigration brand pretty much. That's what I'm known for. So those are the cases that people come to me for, and those are the cases that people know to refer to me because I make that known. So just really helping them figure out like what their thing is and just going all in on that.
First of all, how did you figure that out? Is that something you just intuitively discovered, or did you sort of learn it by trial and error? Or did you hear it from somebody else? Or all the above?
All of the above. So there's that saying that says the riches are in the niches. And I was like, no, because, like people are always like, you have to have your hand in different things to really make money. But over time, like I got tired, honestly. I was like, I don't want to do all these things. Because it's like when you're doing multiple things in your business, you have to have like different workflows for all of this stuff and you got to manage all that stuff. So I'm like, how can I just have one thing that I do that I'm really great at, that I love doing? And then also when I was looking at trimming down my law firm, I realized that about 90% of the cases that were coming in anyway are these exact types of cases. So letting go of everything else wouldn't really impact my income. So once I realized that, I went all in on the super hard marriage-based green card cases because those are what I like to do anyway. And so once I figured out that I would be okay and I wouldn't end up like broken homeless, like I just kind of kept going with that.
I mean, the niche thing, I'm a huge believer in that. I've seen it over and over and over. Definitely 100% agree. I mean, you look at, I hate to compare law to fast food, but, you look at Chick-fil-A, they don't serve burgers and they're the top, per store sale fast food place in the country. I think number 2 is Raising Cane's, and they have like 3 things on the menu or whatever it is. So it's, you just do the one thing, get really good at it. It's easier to market. It's easier to find your avatar.
Yep.
All the way. So, okay. So you help people sort of find their brand, their niche. What about the actual social media stuff? Do you help them design sort of their, what they're going to put out there? Do you review their stuff and give them feedback? Do you script it for them, or how does it work?
So I don't even script things for myself. Like most of my videos is like off the cuff. When I have tried scripting, the video just does not feel like me and doesn't look like me. So everything I do is literally like off the dome, but I do help my clients with that. And so I help them, I literally give them like a 30-day blueprint of this is what you're going to talk about on LinkedIn. Here's how you can repurpose it for TikTok, or like I kind of help them with that. I help them figure out a better way to batch record and create content. There was a Sunday afternoon, I was bored. I created like 3 months worth of content in that afternoon, and I just scheduled them out. So I had content scheduled out for like all of Q4 of 2022, I believe it was. So I just kind of help people with that. And I really help them just figure out exactly what they're going to post about so that they don't have to think about it. I have like my method really helps them figure out I'm trying to think of the words. Like it helps you figure out what exactly to post about when you think you can't think of anything. Because a lot of attorneys, their excuse is, I don't have the time. I never know what to post about. I don't know what to write about. If I tell you and I give you a framework that's repeatable, then you never have to think about that again. And then also, when in doubt, you can repurpose stuff. You can post things again, just like we watch reruns on TV. You can post something. I promise you, the thing you posted last summer, if you post it today, no one's going to bring that up because we barely remember what happened to us last week, And so just kind of giving people things to post about that are authentic to them. I am very big on do what's comfortable for you. So if you're someone who doesn't like being on video, I'm not going to tell you that you need to go live every day on Instagram because you're not going to feel comfortable with that. If you love writing, then I'm going to encourage you to get on LinkedIn, maybe Facebook, but I kind of work with what people want to do and what they're comfortable with.
So I imagine, just knowing lawyers and knowing myself too, in the early days, hitting the publish button or the, upload button is really hard, and it's just really hard to get them get beyond the fear or whatever it is. So I imagine part of your coaching is getting them out of that and really sort of changing their headspace. So do you see that, or the people coming to you are sort of already on there and they just want to get better?
So a lot of my clients hate social media. Like they hate marketing. They do it just because they have to. And I'm actually working on something for people, like how to market when you hate social media. But a lot of people don't really want to do it. They kind of want to do the bare minimum, or the biggest thing is their fear of like, what if I post something and people don't like it? Or what if I post something and it's stupid? We won't know until you actually put it out there. And the thing that you think sucks, people might actually love, So it's really just getting out of your own head and just focusing on what the goal of your post is. I never encourage people just to post. Like I'm never going to tell you, you have to post every single day for like 30 days straight or anything like ridiculous like that. I tell people to post with a purpose and, just put this stuff out there, because I promise you, like people are going to want to hear about it. And that's what's going to get people to know, like, and trust you a little bit better.
And I will say the beauty of the early days of social media posting is that no one sees it. It's like you got hardly any followers, and even of the followers you've got, probably some very small percentage actually see it, and then it's gone. It's gone. It's not going to stay there really forever.
Right.
If you want it to come back, you're going to have to repost it, right?
Right.
Yeah. So how do people get in touch with you for Brilliant Rebel? Is it a different website?
Yeah, so that's brilliantrebel.com, or people send me a DM or a message on LinkedIn. Most of my clients for Brilliant Rebel come to me from LinkedIn because I post a lot on LinkedIn. Not really recently, but I usually post a lot on LinkedIn. So people usually come to me from there.
Okay, so you've got these two businesses. How do you manage and split your time between the two? And how has that maybe changed over time?
So for the law firm, I only work on that a couple days a week. And then for Brilliant Rebel, so my law firm I work on from Tuesday through Thursday. And then Brilliant Rebel, I work on Mondays and Fridays. So I have like those designated days. Occasionally, if I feel like working on a Saturday, I'll limit myself to Saturday mornings. I really don't like working on weekends, but I kind of just break it down that way. So that way I know like these are designated days for the law firm work. These are designated days for Brilliant Rebel.
And so as you look forward, the next 5, 10, 15 years, both your firm and Brilliant Rebel, what would you like, what's your vision? What would you like to see? And then for you personally, your role in both?
So for the law firm, I'd like to transition into a role of I own a law firm. I'm not working in it anymore. Whether that means I bring other people in to manage it, or I sell it, or it's not in existence anymore, I don't really know, but I don't see myself running this business and working as an attorney in it in the next 15 years or so. Over the last few years, a lot of companies and like state and local governments have been hiring me as an immigration consultant to really advise them on how to handle the influx of migrants they've been experiencing over the last couple of years. And so I love doing like that consulting immigration work more than I like actually like going to court representing a client. So I think I would like to transition more into doing that type of work than actually like working day to day in my law firm. With Brilliant Rebel, I would love to see it grow, not only with, like beyond lawyers. I like to help people who, like, if you had to sit down and take a test and get a license to do what you do, like, that's who I want to work with, because I find that it's not just the legal industry that's really conservative. It's also real estate, financial services, accounting. There's a lot of different industries where a lot of people, regular people, lay people, don't know what's going on. And there's this disconnect between the professionals and the lay person where we don't feel comfortable maybe seeking out assistance from, a therapist. So now we're using ChatGPT for therapy instead, or because we don't really understand what therapists do, or we don't necessarily want to incur a heavy copay to go see a doctor when we can maybe Google it. And so I think if more professionals were creating content and marketing in a way that's more personable, that it would really bridge the gap between what you do and what the people that need your services can learn about.
So for Brilliant Rebel, I know you help people other than lawyers, but let's circle back to the niche issue. It's easy for you to market Brilliant Rebel and social media and marketing to lawyers because you're a lawyer and you've done it. And people say, oh, she did it. How do you broaden that niche to just professionals of any sort? And how do you market that?
Yeah, so same way. So like, for example, you can be a CPA who specializes in helping people navigate mergers and acquisitions, or maybe you are a therapist who focuses on anxiety with women dealing with postpartum. Like it's really just a matter of like what's your niche and how do you reach those people?
And so for you, for both of your businesses, it's all organic social media outreach for you. You don't have any paid or any other type of marketing type stuff you do?
Nope, it's not that I don't believe in paid ads. I just haven't needed to use them, and even with my Google My Business page, I kind of just pimp it out such that it kind of does the marketing for me. Like I do get a lot of clients from Google, but it's not because I'm paying for ads. It's because of the keywords and things that I optimize in my Google My Business page that shows up in their search. And that's kind of how they come to me. But if ever I needed to do Google ads, like I wouldn't be opposed to it. I just haven't needed to.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you sort of the same question, but in two different sort of ways. So, and this is for your law firm. You went out on your own, started your firm. You've learned a lot over the last 11 years. So, do you have any advice for lawyers out there with regard to just starting or growing their law practice? Not social media stuff, just the law firm stuff.
Sure. So, for those who are thinking about starting your law firm, whatever your biggest fear is, say it out loud, write it down, read it out loud too, just to kind of de-arm it, or disarm it rather, because a lot of people just hold on to that fear of like, what if I fail? What if, this happens? Okay, so what if you fail? You can go get a job, or what if you wake up one day and you hate your law firm? Again, you can close it, go get a job. Like, it's not like if you work for yourself and start your law firm that you're completely unemployable for the rest of your life. If anything, the opposite is true, because now as a solo entrepreneur, you've learned things that make you more marketable should you decide to go work at another law firm or whatever other company. So that's the first thing I would say. Just do it, start small. Also focus on just what you need. I know a lot of people are like, I need the big office with all the fancy equipment and I need all this stuff. Like, no, just for me, I literally just had my law license and some Wi-Fi. Like that's what I started with. And that was enough to get me going. So just start with what you need and then you can kind of build up from the rest. For those who are wanting to grow their law firm, same thing. Like don't rush to go hire people. Once you start to make money, don't rush to go buy the latest, iPhone and all the gadgets and whatever. Still be fiscally responsible and treat yourself like you're still starting out until you really can afford to kind of splurge a little bit more.
Okay, so similar question. This is to lawyers that are out there doing social media. You've looked at a lot of social media. I know you have a lot of good opinions on that. So what do you see are some of the top mistakes and maybe some advice you would give them, some, 80-20 things that they could fix pretty quickly to maybe get better traction on social media?
So my biggest pet peeve, this is specific to LinkedIn. I hate when I see posts and it's like, I'm thrilled to announce I just got this certification. I'm thrilled to announce whatever. Nobody is ever actually thrilled to announce these things. Like when you're creating content on social media, speak like a human being, please and thank you. Stop with the I'm thrilled to announce things. Another thing that I see right now happening that's also kind of making me mad is what I like to call empathy porn, which is people posting things like, I got fired from my first job out of law school. Here's how it turned into $1 million law firm. Or like just posting things where it's like, here's this really bad and sad thing that happened to me that I want you to feel bad about, but here's how I turned it around to like rise up. Like I hate those posts because it's very gimmicky. Again, just speak to people, the way that you would want to be spoken to. I also think we need to give masterclass a break. I feel like every other day it's like so-and-so is teaching a masterclass on this and a masterclass on that. Not everything is a masterclass, right? So it's just share content that you would actually want to consume and that you think your client would actually care about. Your client doesn't care that you just bought, a new Benz. Your client doesn't care about your red bottoms. They care about like they have this problem that they need help with. Can you help them? And more importantly, do they even like you? Because the gag is a lot of people don't even want to hire lawyers. They would rather just hire someone else because it's cheaper or DIY. So you already have that working against you. Don't be the type of person that falls into that stereotype of what other people think lawyers are. Just be a normal person. That's all they're looking for.
You know, you mentioned the empathy porn. You know, there is on Twitter, at least, some really good satire accounts that basically do that, but it's ridiculous. So are you on Twitter?
Not anymore. I haven't used Twitter in years.
You know, I've never posted. I've lurked. It's not the way it used to be. I'll just say that. It's not as good as the way good years are behind it. But there's still a few good things on there. But so what are your main channels? You got TikTok, LinkedIn, YouTube. Are those your three main?
Those are my three main for business. I also love Threads because I used to love Twitter. Like I used to go in live tweet shows all the time, just, shenanigans on Twitter. And I kind of do that on Threads now. So on Threads, it's kind of a mix of professional and personal where I'm sharing a day in the life of, a solo entrepreneur. I've been sharing like my hiring chronicles because hiring has been challenging for me this year and just kind of sharing different things. I share some tidbits about immigration. I share some tidbits about personal branding. So it's really just a mix of, if you want to know what I'm really like, then that's kind of what it is. And if you like me on Threads, then you would meet me in person and like me too, because I'm exactly the same way online as I am in person.
So before I let you go, I do want to hear about your thoughts on Facebook. So, it's gone through all sorts of evolution and, it's like a bunch of boomers, whatever it is now. I don't know. People are like, I hate it. I'm not going on there. But what is your view on that? I feel like people get clients out of there. So what do you think about it? And what's a good way to approach Facebook?
So I have a like-hate relationship with Facebook. I'm on there really because my family's on there, but I have gotten a decent amount of clients on Facebook. And I also get paid for creating content there. So that's also motivating to kind of create stuff there. Facebook is hit or miss for me. I am in a lot of Facebook groups, so I do kind of communicate with some lawyers here and there. But it really just depends on what you're using Facebook for. Like if you plan on using Facebook for marketing, then you have to be a little bit more strategic about it. Live video does really well on Facebook. Whether people are actually watching you live or not, most people are more likely to watch your videos after the fact than watching it live. So if you're going to be posting, then that's the way to go. But it's just, I don't know. It's like kind of like most social media platforms. It's hit or miss these days.
So what do you do outside of business and law? What do you do for fun?
So I love to bake. I think I'm biased, obviously, but I bake the best carrot cake that you will ever have in your life. I bake everything from scratch. I don't have a sweet tooth though. So I really literally just bake things and give them away to people.
Where do you live? How close are you?
I live in Massachusetts. So fun fact, I was meeting up with a friend at CleoCon in Austin in October, and I literally baked her a lemon cake and brought it with me just to hand deliver it to her just because. So if you love sweets and stuff, I can definitely bake something and send it to you. Other than that, I love gardening, although in Massachusetts we can't really garden until summertime, but those are the things that I kind of like doing in my spare time.
So you mentioned CleoCon. Do you go to many conferences? Do you travel, go to those?
Yeah, I don't mind traveling, although this year's is in Boston, so I won't have to travel.
So what are your conferences of choice? You got Clio and what else?
So CleoCon has been my favorite legal conference to go to so far, just because they're actually pushing innovation and whatnot, especially AI, which is like oil and water for lawyers. But I like CleoCon. Other than that, I'm trying to think, last year I went to LawDroid, which I think was like a virtual conference. Those are the last two that I've gone to. I've gone to the American Immigration Lawyers Association conferences. I've been a speaker at those a few times. So I'm actually looking for other conferences to go to because I personally find legal conferences to be very boring, cookie cutter, and like same speaker, same topics, and I'm kind of looking for a little bit, I kind of want something different,
Outside the law, you mean?
Yeah.
There's so many conferences nowadays. It's, there's so many. I mean, so many legal, so many non-legal, and it's hard to find, necessarily which ones to go to. And I mean, I was talking to somebody and it's like, I could fill my calendar fall and spring with nothing but conferences.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't be able to get anything done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It'd be fun though, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, cool. So, anything, as you look to the future, anything you think you want to do that maybe you haven't started yet, or, any other things that you're looking forward to?
Speaking about the conferences, I would love to one day host a conference that is different than the typical legal conferences. I feel like every year it's the same topic, same speaker, same everything. And I just want lawyers to know that you have personality. You were someone before you became a lawyer. I understand that law school strips us down, breaks us down, doesn't build us back up. But I just want lawyers to tap back into who they were before they became an attorney. Because for me, I look at being an attorney as my job. I don't plan on doing this for the rest of my life. And I feel like a lot of people can't separate the two. And I just want lawyers to kind of let their freak flag fly a little bit, and just bring more of that personality into your business and into your life, and everything will be improved for you. So I kind of want to one day kind of create a conference that allows lawyers to do that while also learning things other than the typical things we learn at conferences.
Well, put me on the email list. Make sure I get notice when you decide to do it.
Will do.
Well, Bianca, this has been great. Appreciate you coming on. So for people out there, you've dropped some of your stuff earlier, but why don't you tell us again, what's the best way to get in touch with you?
Sure. So I'm Brazen Lawyer on all social media, and I'm also on LinkedIn a lot. So you can just look me up, Bianca Jordan on LinkedIn. Shoot me a message. I don't bite, so just holla at me.
All right. Well, I appreciate it. Thanks for coming on.
No problem.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Founding Partner Podcast. Be sure to subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts to stay up to date on the latest episodes. You can also connect with Jonathan on LinkedIn and check out the show notes with links to resources mentioned throughout our discussion by visiting www.lawfirmgc.com. We'll see you next time for more origin stories and insights from successful law firm founders.